Hello all. Have you heard any time about a quote, power tends to corrupt and absolute power tends to corrupt absolutely? Yes. So today we are going to correlate this with a real-time incident that happened recently in West Bengal, and based on that incident, the matter has already reached the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court has decided to intervene and to look into this issue. And another constitutional body has advised imposition of president rule in that particular state. So in this regard, we are going to discuss about the recent violence or unrest that happened in one of the Indian state, and we'll look into the details of that incidents, what happened in that incident, and what are the constitutional provisions involved in imposition of president rule, and what is the constitutional status of the body which recommended that president rule has to be imposed, and many other things as part of this video. So let's start. Here you can see it is with respect to Bengal. So Bengal, in that we have a particular area called Sandeshkhali. So this area is in North 24th Paragana. So this this district of North 24th Paragana is having boundary with Bangladesh. So it is having this particular area in it. So there the protest started by different women. So alleging that the local leaders are sexually harassing them, and are also then resorting to land grabbing and all. So in this light, Supreme Court has accepted a public interest litigation which was filed before it to look into this matter. So we'll be looking into this, and we'll also know section 144 also. So this is going to be the issue. NCSC, the constitutional body, is National Commission for Scheduled Castes. It has recommended that president rule under Article 356 has to be imposed in the state of West Bengal. So we'll know the reasons for it. So we'll understand what is this Sandeshkhali violence and what led to this recommendation, and we'll know about the constitutional status of NCSC. We'll also know what is president rule, in what situations president rule can be imposed, and all the constitutional provisions. In the same time, we'll also know the consequences of the imposition of president's rule, and then we'll understand whether how it can be settled down. So this forms part of GS paper 2 under polity and constitution in GS mains. Then, as you have come across this event, so this is related to Sandeshkhali violence, where some people, okay, especially the scheduled caste women, so they have led to roads and they have started protesting against a local leader who is like charged with an enforcement directorate also, because he there is some ration distribution scam that was alleged on this person. With respect to that, ED started conducting inquiry. So it's all started from then. We'll understand what is the sequence, and here you can see, in the light of this particular event, NCSC has recommended imposition of president's rule in West Bengal. So we'll understand what is this Sandeshkhali violence. As I told you, this is in North 24th Paragana. So this is one of the district in West Bengal, so which is having boundary with Bangladesh. Okay, so it is having land boundary with Bangladesh. Okay, so what happened here is, there is a local leader, so who is called Sheikh Shahjahan. So this person, so he was alleged to have some main role in ration distribution scam. In light of this, enforcement directorate wants to search and wants to inquire into this issue. So on this slide, when enforcement directorate people came to this person's house and all, like these persons supporters, they have blocked the enforcement directorate and they have started attacking these persons. So like they have escaped from this attack, but still in the light of, in the wake, because you know when something happens, okay, so it will come into the media and all. No, at that point of time, when they know that enforcement directorate people were also attacked by these person supporters and all, so local women, they have started protesting against this person and his supporters, stating that even they were also subjected to sexual violence and sexual harassment, and also land grabbing also was also the allegation made by these women against this particular person who is politically influential in that area, and also his supporters. In the light of the statement, okay, so by the women and all, so police they said even police also refused to frame their charges because he's powerfully influential in that particular area, and also they started demonstrating that this person immediately has to be arrested. So this person fled and he was under abscondence now. So the persons are asking, the women are asking for his arrest. So this is all the thing that happened previously. A brief background, that's it. That is not required for us in the examination perspective. But then what happened? Some advocate, okay, so he has filed public interest litigation in the Supreme Court. You know what is PIL? So this is one form of judicial activism, you know, where in case not only the person who got affected, but any other person in the social interest, you can say in the interest of the society, they can file a litigation, okay, to stop some injustice from happening. So you can see this public interest litigation was filed before the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court accepted that we look into this issue on the urgent matter of importance, okay. And another thing is, today itself Supreme Court has even stayed the Lok Sabha panel's what you can say, Lok Sabha panel has issued some directions on the Chief Secretary of West Bengal and also DGP of West Bengal, summoning them to be present before them. Okay, so with respect to that also Supreme Court has stayed. It said it is going to look into this matter on an urgent basis. This is all something related to the Sandeshkhali violence. In this violence, as so many women, they were subjected to harassment and torture by these persons. And they were also, now even after this demonstrations also, they got some threat calls and all. In the wake of this thing only, NCSC has recommended, because you know this is the main constitutional body which is safeguarding the rights of scheduled castes, as the main people who suffered in this particular violence or unrest or scheduled caste women. So NCSC has recommended that even president rule has to be imposed in this particular state of West Bengal. So in the light of this, we'll understand what is happening. So National Commission for Scheduled Castes, NCSC, we have, this is a constitutional body, okay. So constitutional body means it itself has fine, you can say this has fine mention in its constitution itself, okay. So there is mention in the constitution with respect to this body. So this is under Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, whatever the domain is there, that will be taken care by the NCSC. So you can remember that Article 338 of Indian Constitution is dealing with the provisions of National Caste for Scheduled Castes, okay. So National Commission for Scheduled Castes. So what happens is, in the beginning, what are the domains it had under its jurisdiction is both scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, and also Anglo-Indians also used to be under the domain of NCSC. But later, you know, 89th constitutional amendment has bifurcated separate commissions, right? For national scheduled castes, this NCSC is working, and we have National Commission for Scheduled Tribes, which was bifurcated in 2003 with 89th amendment, means separate bodies were established for SC and STs, okay, for their welfare. And another thing you have to remember is, this is also taking care about the needs of Anglo-Indians. You know, Anglo-Indians are also taken care by this same body, NCSC. Now we have 338A, which is functioning for National Commission for Scheduled Tribes, STs, and we have 338B, recently constituted for backward classes, NCBC, National Commission for Backward Classes. So these two are also constitutional bodies along with this NCSC. So this is what you have to remember. Then we have the history. So as I told you, this was initially set up in 1978 as the first commission, and you know, subsequently 89th amendment in 2003 has created a separate body for SC and ST. So this became 338A. Then this is 338, okay. So do remember, whenever there is alphabetical addition, that means it was later added to the constitution by subsequent amendments. So this was the history of this particular body. Then what are the duties and functions of NCSC means? It has to investigate and monitor all matters which are related to scheduled castes, okay, even Anglo-Indians also. And you can see, to inquire into specific complaints with respect to their rights and whatever the safeguards are guaranteed by the constitution, political, social, economic safeguards are given, no, for SC and Anglo-Indians, those have to be looked into in case of any complaint, and to participate and advise in the planning process also. For example, if like you can see for STs, we have tribal planning, sub-plans we have. So in relation to that particular jurisdiction, if there is any such thing, it can advise to the government to formulate a plan. It can also do so. Then it can also present to the president an annual report. Annual report will be submitted by this body to the President of India, and President of India shall lay down that before the Parliament, okay. And to make such reports and recommendations also, sometimes even for the welfare of scheduled castes and Anglo-Indians, some recommendations can be made by this body to the union government, so they can take better safeguards. Then to discharge any other functions related to SCs. So these are the duties and functions of NCSC. Then what are the powers of the commission? Normally, whenever it is functioning, it will have the same powers like the powers of a civil court. You know, civil court means it will have the power to issue summon. It will also have the power to inquire into any documents related to the particular incident and all the related case files, and also in that way, it can have some powers like a civil court. And the commission is also having power to regulate its own procedure, okay. That means whether to follow CPC or it can follow principles of natural justice like this. It is also having power to determine its own jurisdiction. Then union and every state government also shall consult this commission on all major policies. Means whenever they wanted to make any better safeguard for SCs, then they can consult this NCSC in this regard, and they can make better, they can get better recommendations from this body in the interest of scheduled caste. Then what is the structure? So generally, the NCSC being a constitutional body, it will compose of a chairperson, vice chairperson, and also 3 members will be there, who are all appointed by the President of India under his warrant and sign. Okay, so warrant and in the hand and seal will be opposed, will be on that particular grounds. They will be appointed 1 chairman plus 1 vice chairman plus 3 members, means totally 5 members will be part of NCSC, and all the related things, conditions of service, the tenure, salaries, everything will be determined by the president himself. Okay, being a constitutional body. Then we'll look into what is this Article 356. You know, under Indian Constitution, we have 3 types of emergencies imposed. That means in emergency situations, you know, center will become all powerful. That means although we are a federation, when we have unitary tendencies in some special situations like emergencies, that means normally center and state both have their equal powers in the respect of their own domains. But normally in these type of situations will not be there. That means in emergency situations, center will become all powerful, and center can also even legislate in the state list matters also. In 5 abnormal situations, if you have remembered, Parliament can enact laws in the state list matters also. If you have to remember, that is one national emergency, second is president rule, and in some other situations when 2 or more states request, or in case to give ratification to any particular state international legislation, or even if Rajya Sabha thinks that it is important in the national interest. In all these 5 situations, Parliament is empowered to make laws in the state list. No, in that one of the ground is president rule. So that means here center becomes all powerful, and the state will lose its power to legislate also in its own domain. So we'll understand what are the provisions of president rule. Before that, we should understand from where we have taken the provisions of emergency. Means we have taken the provisions of emergency from Government of India Act 1935, but the suspension of fundamental rights during emergency was taken from Weimar Constitution or German Constitution. Suspension of fundamental rights was taken from German Constitution, but the concept of emergency is taken from Government of India Act 1935. In this slide, you have to remember Section 93 of Government of India Act 1935 is dealing with the similar provisions, that is about president rule. President rule is also called state emergency or failure of constitutional machinery. So you have to remember this. So it is also called state emergency or constitutional emergency, because whenever there is a breakdown of constitutional machinery or constitutional failure happens, then only this president rule can be imposed. So then you can see this is what we have discussed. Then it can be imposed. So normally in what situations means, here you should know about 2 important articles, that is Article 355. What is this Article 355 saying? Article 355 is saying that center has the duty to protect every state from any external aggression. In case of any external aggression, the duty will be on the center to protect all the states, and also from any internal disturbance also. Not only this, in case it also have to ensure, that means center have to ensure that every state is following the provisions of constitution, and it is carrying its administration in accordance with the constitution. In light of these 2 things, there is duty imposed on the center by the constitution. In case of any constitutional failure happens, or if the state is not complying with the provisions of constitution, then center can impose the president rule in that particular state. Then Article 355 we have seen. Then you also should know about Article 365. That means in case if the state is failing to listen to the directions given by the center, or if it is not following the provisions of constitution, then under 365, president can impose Article 356, that is president rule. So these are the articles which you should know. Then we have 3 types of emergencies, right? National emergency under 352, 356 president rule we have, 360 is financial emergency we have. So here normally president rule, if for it has to be imposed, 2 grounds can be there, 2 situations where, that means governor on his own, if he thinks that there is a constitutional breakdown or failure of constitutional machinery in that state, he can recommend to the President of India to impose the president rule in that particular state. Or if the president he himself thinks that there is a need for imposition of president president rule also, then president rule can be imposed in that particular state. So these are the two grounds. Then once if it is imposed, then it can continue only for 6 months of time. That means within 6 months, it has to get parliamentary approval. If it doesn't get approval, there won't be any further continuation. Okay. Then maximum 3 years period only it can be continued. That means subsequently for every 6 months it cannot get parliamentary approval. Maximum duration is 3 years. This is not there for national emergency. National emergency can be carried on indefinitely, you can say indefinitely for any time, but there won't be any maximum duration in case of national emergency. But in case of president rule, it can only be imposed for maximum period of 3 years, subsequently getting parliamentary approval for every 6 months. Okay, so this is what you have to keep in mind. And do remember that in in national emergency, there will be effect on fundamental rights, because except 20 and 21, fundamental rights can be suspended. But in case of president rule, there won't be any such suspension of fundamental rights. There will be small changes with respect to administration. That means central government will control state in the legislative powers and executive things, but there won't be any effect on the fundamental rights. So then in 1978, 44th Amendment was passed, so making some changes to make it more tightened. Okay, they have tightened the provisions for not making this president rules and its imposition very easier. So you can see here, in the case of national emergency, for example, in what situations it can be extended, it cannot be extended beyond 1 year. Means in normal situations, like as I told you in the beginning only, so for every 6 months it has to get parliamentary approval. But I told you maximum duration is 3 years. But subsequently, in case of maximum period of 3 years also, this 44th Amendment has made some changes, and it said after 1 year period, okay, it cannot be extended. Only if two situations happen, then only beyond 1 year it can be extended till 3 years time. What are those situations? Means in case if there is a national emergency imposed in the whole India or part of India, then also beyond 1 year it can continue the state of emergency. Then, or if election commission certifies that elections cannot be conducted in that particular state, okay, then also beyond 1 year this president rule can be continued. That means normally when once president rule is imposed, then within 6 months election commission has to conduct elections within that state, and it has to form a new government, because the chief minister and the council of ministers will stand dissolved, so they'll not have any functions to be performed. So normally you have to remember, with respect to legislative sphere, the legislative assembly will be kept under suspended animation. Means they can be dissolved or they can be prorogued also. This is one situation where the executive will not have more powers. So who will control the executive, or who will control the government? Means on behalf of the President of India, governor will occupy all the positions along with the chief secretary and other officials in the state. He'll carry the administration in the state. That means here the council of ministers on whom's advice the governor will function now will not have to take this advice of the council of ministers or chief minister anymore, and he, on his advice, okay, upon the request of the president, he can take up the administration of the state. So these are the changes that will happen normally in case of a president rule. So this is the consequences. But you know, most often we have heard about this president rule getting misused. And if you have remembered, in center-state relations also, this is one issue where the relations got disturbed between the center and state, because there is arbitrary imposition of president rule many times. So in light of this, there were some recommendations made to not to misuse this provision of Article 356. One such thing was made by Sarkaria Commission, which was appointed on center-state relations in 1983. So it said only in extreme situations and very rare situations only there should be imposition of this president rule. Second thing is, Supreme Court in the landmark SR Bommai judgment, it said that this Article 356, okay, so whenever it is that strict guidelines should be provided in case of dismissal of the state government. And it also said maximum for a period, okay, in case if there is a, like if the governor thinks that the house has lost majority in the government, then there should be a chance that should be given to the government to show its majority. That means without conducting the floor test, no governor can dismiss the state government. That is one main thing that was recommended in the light of this SR Bommai case. And also it said president rule can be subjected to judicial review. That means it is not beyond judicial review. So we know normally judicial review is exercised under Article 13 of Indian Constitution by Supreme Court, along with 32. This is under writs, and we have 226 for high courts and 131. Like this, we have some other provisions also. Do remember this. And then yesterday's practice question, you can see square kilometer array observatory, SKO is a. So it is a new intergovernmental organization dedicated for radio astronomy. So this is a world project in which India also recently has joined with respect to radio astronomy. Then practice question for today. You can see here, with reference to the president rule, consider the following statements. 1. President cannot impose president's rule without the recommendation of the governor. Second, recommendation of the governor is binding upon the president. Which of the following statements given or above are correct? Okay. So 1 only, 2 only, both 1 and 2, neither 1 nor 2. Now, practice question for mains. What are the various conditions for imposition of president rule in a state? Analyze the significance of SR Bombay judgment in this context. So, as we have come to end of the video today, we have discussed what led to the recommendation. Why did this NCSC have recommended that president rule should be implemented in the state of West Bengal? And also we have seen Sandeshkhali violence, what led an unrest among this particular tribe, scheduled caste women in that area. And also we have seen what are the constitutional provisions related to Article 356 and its imposition, as well as some guidelines made by Supreme Court as well as Sarkaria Commission. And also we have discussed about NCSC and its composition, powers and duties. So this is all with respect to this video. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.